of welfare benefit plans, and these plans provide benefits to approximately 150 million Americans, and along, of course, with Social Security and individual savings, provide workers and their families with income during their retirement. As you said, both senators, Senator Sanders and Chairman Harkin, many Americans are worried today that they may not have saved enough for a secure retirement. With fewer employers offering defined benefit plans and a dramatic increase in the offering of 401k type plans, the risk of preparing and investing for retirement have shifted onto the shoulders of American workers. In the administration's 2011 budget and the department's regulatory agenda, initiatives are included to improve the transparency and adequacy of these 401k type plans, which workers are relying on more and more. We're also working to preserve defined benefit plans, which provide workers with a steady stream of income in retirement. One of the department's highest priorities has been to improve the transparency of 401k fees to help workers and plan sponsors make sure they're getting the services at a fair price. Senator Harkin, in particular, I want to thank you for your long leadership in this area. We're in the final stages of a rule that will ensure that workers have access to the information that they need to make informed investment decisions. For the first time, participants will receive core investment information in a format that enables them to easily compare fees and performance of their plan investment options. We've also published an interim final rule that it will help plan fiduciaries request and obtain the information they need about fees from service providers. This rule will help plan fiduciaries to assess the reasonableness of the fees they're paying for services as well as whether potential conflicts of interest exist with respect to investment services. We believe this rule will particularly benefit small and medium-sized employers who sometimes lack the staffing and the leverage to obtain this information from the service providers. We're also taking steps to make sure that unbiased investment advice is more accessible to workers. Through unbiased investment advice, we can help workers avoid common investment mistakes while also providing strong protections against recommendations about investments tainted by conflicts of interest. But not only do we need to support Americans in saving for retirement, we also need to make sure that good options are available for them for managing their savings to last a lifetime. The department is exploring proposals that promote the availability of lifetime income streams for workers who want access to these products. And we also want to improve plan reporting reliability. The ERISA required annual financial report and plan audits perform a critical function in ensuring that plan assets exist and are fairly valued, and that participant accounts properly reflect the benefits. But unfortunately, many of these annual reports that are filed contain substandard audit reports prepared by auditors with little or no benefit experience. The department is seeking legislative correction to allow the Secretary to define standards for plan auditors, as well as to provide accountability for accountants and others responsible for the integrity of this annual financial report. We also devote significant enforcement resources to protect workers' employee benefit plans. For fiscal year 2009, our enforcement program achieved monetary results of $1.3 billion and closed 287 criminal cases. EBSA's criminal investigations led to the indictment of 115 individuals and guilty pleas or convictions of 121 individuals. Lastly, the department believes it's important that workers have access to information and education they need to make sound decisions for retirement. To that end, EBSA has established a dedicated Saving Matters Retirement Savings Education campaign. This campaign uses publications, online tools, videos, public service announcements, and outreach to provide information to workers and employers. The campaign helps workers understand the importance of saving, as well as their rights under ERISA, and most of the materials are available both in English and Spanish. Together, these regulatory initiatives, education and outreach, will help provide the tools that workers need to retire with confidence. So thank you again for this opportunity to testify at this important hearing. Private sector retirement plans, together with Social Security and individual savings, are important components of assuring a dignified retirement. But more clearly needs to be done to strengthen the private sector retirement system. Chairman Harkin, I know that your committee is starting this process of thinking about how these goals can best be met over the long term, and we will look forward to working with you and the other members of the committee to achieve this goal. Thank you so much.
Ms. Borzi, thank you very much for your leadership on this issue and the Department of Labor's under Secretary Solis. I know you're looking at this, and I know you're working on the rule. I want to cover two things with you. First of all, on the transparency issue, 401k fee disclosures has been a top priority for me. I know it has been for Chairman Miller on the House side, and Senator Sanders has been a long time involved in making sure people know exactly what they're getting into on the fees. You pointed out in your testimony, in your written testimony, as a footnote, just what the differences can be and small percentage changes in the fees. I'll read what you have here. A difference of just 1 percentage point, 1.5% as compared to 0.5%. Now, the average person, you say 0.5, 1.5, no big deal, especially if the 1.5 may have a couple of nice little ornaments on it, you know, that, oh, that looks good, I'll take that because that's not that big of a difference. However, 1.5% compared to 0.5% over 35 years dramatically affects overall returns. If a worker with a 401k account balance of $25,000 averages a 7% return, the worker will have $227,000 at retirement with the lower fee, $163,000 with the higher fee, assuming no other contribution. Everything else remains static. Now, I hope and trust that we are soon going to have mandatory regulations, rules that say that any fee has to disclose this
Absolutely.
up front, so that a person will know whatever plan they pick, how it compares to the other plans.
Absolutely. The participant disclosure regulation that I alluded to in my testimony, which will be out very shortly, is in the form of a chart. So participants can look along the line and compare every single one of their investment options that are offered to them on fees and expenses. You're absolutely right, Mr. Chairman. Most people don't understand the impact that fees have on their returns. You know, they look at a return and they say, hey, that's pretty good. And they don't understand that the return can be dramatically reduced once the fees are subtracted. In a defined benefit plan, the fees are paid by the employers. Right. But in a defined contribution plan, in a 401k plan, they're passed through to individuals, and it makes a dramatic difference in their bottom line.
The other thing I want to cover with you is I've become more aware over the last couple of years, especially in the downturn in the economy, how many people are borrowing on their 401ks. And the more I've looked into it, they're depleting them. They're taking the loans or withdrawals. Do you have any sense of how many people are borrowing? And then, as I say, they borrow, and if they don't pay it back within a certain period of time, they get penalized. It seems to me this is growing. This is a growing concern, but I don't have a handle on exactly how many people are borrowing and not paying their loans back.
Yeah, you know, I don't know those numbers off the top of my head, Mr. Chairman, but we'll be happy to look into them and try to get you the numbers. I share your concern. I worked on the House side as a congressional staffer for 16 years, and when this provision that allowed loans from 401k plans was being considered, certainly the members of the Ed and Labor Committee that I worked for were very, very concerned about it, but the provision was put in because the argument on the other side is people wouldn't save in a 401k plan unless they knew that they had access to the money. But that really illustrates the difficulty we have with 401k plans. They're not really structured to be retirement plans. Senator Sanders, you alluded to that. their savings plans. And that's a good function. We need to have people save. But people can get their money prior to retirement, and all that does is reduce their ultimate retirement security. So I'll be happy to try to get those numbers for you, Mr. Chairman.
And human nature being what it is, I mean, if you have health expenses or
Right.
something happens to your family, a downturn in the economy, you lose your job, y'all borrow the money now. And if you do that, and like I say, they get penalized. I don't know exactly what the penalties are, but if they don't pay it back in time. And but we need to get a better handle on how much this is and how big it's growing. All right?
We'll try and get those numbers for you, Mr.
I appreciate
Chairman.
that. Thanks, Ms. Borzi. Senator Sanders.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much, Ms. Borzi, for your
You're
testimony. Ms. Borzi, you in your statement say, and I quote, 27% of workers report that they have virtually no savings or investments or less than $1,000 in savings, and 54% of workers report the total value of their household saving is less than $25,000. That's what you say. I want you to speculate with me for a moment. If we were to raise the retirement age in Social Security to 70, and you were living in an economic period right now, and you had somebody who was out building roads in the state of Vermont, or that is his job, he's a construction worker. What happens, first of all, how many employers are going to hire a 68-year-old construction worker as opposed to a 25-year-old construction worker? And second of all, if that construction worker or if that nurse or anyone else who's 68 or 69 years of old age waiting for Social Security is unable to get Social Security, what happens to that person who has virtually no savings right now, is 68, 69, has a number of health problems, and can't get Social Security? How are they going to survive?
I wish I could give you a good answer. I know that there are many hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Americans that are exactly in the situation that you're positing. The question about older workers in the workforce is one of the issues that I did work on when I was in the private sector, because age discrimination issues were one of the sets of issues that I worked on. And it's very difficult. It's extremely difficult for older workers. It's not just the 68-year-old worker.
Right.
It's people like one of my brothers who is in his early 50s.
Absolutely.
Who
But
can't get a job.
I absolutely agree with you. But the idea that there are people out there, the leader of the Republican Party in the House of Representatives and many others, was suggesting, no problem. Hey, 67, 68, go out, go out and work on construction. Be a carpenter. What world are they living in? What world? And then, if this person has no income coming in from Social Security, what happens to that person? It is an idea that I guess it's okay for Wall Street billionaires to come up with, but it is not real world, and it's something that must be opposed. I want to ask you another question. Pete Peterson, who made billions of dollars on Wall Street, has pledged to spend $1 billion on a campaign to cut Social Security and Medicare, according to Forbes magazine. Among other things, Mr. Peterson funded a movie entitled IOUSA, claiming that there is not a surplus in the Social Security Trust Fund and it just contains a bunch of worthless IOUs. Just worthless IOUs. What do you think?
Well, Senator, it's what I say to the children of my friends who tell me that Social Security won't be there for them. And what I say is the one thing I know, and it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I work for the Obama administration or I formerly worked for the Congress. The one thing I know and believe in my heart is that Social Security will always be there for people. And our task is to make sure that over the long run, it remains there for everybody.
And isn't it true that these IOUs are backed up by the faith and credit of the United States government?
That is true.
And that if the United States government doesn't maintain that faith and credit, Social Security will the least of the problems that we have to worry about, because we'll be looking at an international financial collapse.
I think that's absolutely correct.
All right. Now I'm going to ask you a hard question. I know what your answer is going to be. but it's going to be a hard question. Is